Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay. I had
I think we're
to.
live.
We're live. Yes.
I think we are. Hey,
Sorry
man.
for that. There was some confusion on the live piece because the
This
X
is the
account is
debut
not
act. It's
the X
fine.
account is not premium. Well, welcome to the first music career study group. This is a weekly live stream where we're going to get together and chat about the latest music news, all the things that impact independent artists. We're going to share thoughts and ideas, and we'll dive into topics that are important for independent artists. They're trying to grow and build a career, find new fans, tap into various audiences. And we called it a study group because we want to exchange notes. We're all getting together to talk about our experiences, because the best thing about being a part of the independent artist community is learning from each other, because let's face it, independent artists are the most innovative when it comes to marketing their music and finding new ways to build fans and finding those new platforms and harnessing them to their advantage. So we want to hear from you just as much as we're going to be sharing our thoughts and ideas. This first episode, it's going to have a bit more of a programmed feel because we're just getting it off the ground, and we want you to chime in as we go. And, we'll be asking questions of the audience and you listening also. Chris,
Hey,
you're here.
I'm here.
I'm here.
Not,
We're doing something back together again, live on
I,
the internet.
so I was gonna say, not to discount you. I have missed our chats, but to be honest, you and I talk all the time.
That's
So
true.
what I'm really excited about is to be back in a format where we can hear directly from artists, because, like you said, they're always the one that sort of by necessity have to be at the cutting edge of innovative ways of getting music out and making people care. So uh, all that to say, if you're watching, you are more than invited to participate in this. If you have, comments, advice, whatever related to the topic, that's great. But maybe to just kick things off, I'm curious who's out there, where you're watching from, maybe what kind of music you make, what your current projects are, or your current goals for your music, any sort of thing to help us all meet each other.
Yeah. And again, we're calling it the Music Career Study Group. Yeah, there we go. We got a fancy slide. Because again, it's all of us getting together, exchanging ideas, learning from one another. Chris and I will have prepared topics each week, but it's more fun when we all comment. And, Chris, you and I do talk all the time, but I feel like there's a certain side of our personalities that only come out when when we're doing these things. I've missed curmudgeon Chris. I don't think
Yeah, once
you haven't gone on any soapbox rants for me lately.
once upon a time, it was sort of you were the good cop, I was the bad cop, or I was the curmudgeon and you were the optimist. So we'll see how true that remains.
Yes, before we dive into the topic today, which is going to be the truth about music money, and we've got 6 or 13. I think we got it down to 13 truth bombs about making money from your music in 2024. Before that, Chris, there's been some interesting developments that have happened in the music industry as of late. One big announcement this week.
I'm curious what's the top of mind for you?
The top of mind. Well, this week Oasis announced a big reunion tour. It's only going to be in the UK as of now, but to me, I was sort of laughing about all of the excitement about it, because I'm like, out of anybody that I would expect to not show up for this reunion tour, it's like, I posted on X, on my X account, which you can follow me at KBruner, that I'd want to see proof of a completion of couples therapy for them before spending $500 on a ticket and probably the thousands to get to the show.
I was talking with someone last night who was joking about what the insurance costs must be on this, just because chances are it'll never happen.
Yeah. So that was an interesting development. Anything that landed top of mind for you?
Well, yeah, I think it was about 5 or 6 days ago, Instagram announced this new feature where users can add a song, like pin a song to the top of their profile. And I thought, oh, cool. And a lot of the news coverage was saying, this harkens back to the days of MySpace, when a song would just be associated with a particular user right from the beginning of you loading the profile. And so then I went to investigate it and use it for myself. And I said, oh, of course, I have a business account on Instagram, so I can't use it. And I'm like, why do they always do this?
You got to change it to a creator account.
Yeah, I got to switch it to the normal profile.
It's always something that they've got us doing. Again, this is the Music Career Study Group, our first live stream. Chris and I getting the band back together. We're going to be talking about 13 truth bombs about making money from your music. Coming up, we're still just, live stream, brand new, people finding their way in. Again, if you're listening, we'd love to know where you're listening from. And if there's any things related to your music career that are top of mind right now, any questions you have, things you've been thinking about, concerns about where things are going, we're going to talk about all sorts of things like AI and stuff in future editions of the Music Career Study Group. I'm sure we can have some exciting conversations there, but we would love for you to both subscribe and like and share this video so we can help get the live stream off the ground and reach as many artists as possible.
And it's occurring to me now, I should go and actually share this to my own
account.
If you do want to share it, it helps a lot to
why don't you do that? I don't know, man. Now I got to figure out this live on the internet. While you share it, I'm going to mention one more thing that in sort of the news section, Tidal recently sent out an artist survey to thanks, Ian. Ian's driving through New York, and be careful, Ian. Don't
hey,
drive
what's up,
off.
Ian?
Don't drive off the road while you listen to us. But travel safe. Anyway, Tidal sent out an artist survey that I found extremely confusing. And Chris, you may have gotten I may have answered questions where it's like, screw this guy, we're bailing on this survey. Malia made it.
No, I took the same survey this morning. It was extremely, I will say, strange, and we can talk about how in a second.
Yeah, it was. I thought, okay, Tidal's trying to find out more about the artist community. I'll take it. They said take about 20 minutes, and half the questions were about how much alcohol you drink. It was, and how much, like, there was like mainstream news questions. I maybe a dynamic survey, because you mentioned some things that it asked you that seemed more relevant, but I'm like, what is this survey about? How does this help artists?
Yeah, at first it seemed like a whole bunch of questions that were kind of about lifestyle. And so I thought, oh, maybe they're, entertaining some lifestyle brand aspirations or trying to connect artists with certain interest groups or whatever. Then it went on and had a whole bunch of questions about actual DSPs, streaming platforms, promotion platforms, like what artists' concerns are, why they favor particular platforms over others. And so then it seemed like a very relevant survey. However, at least 2 of the pages were extremely confusing about how to even finish what they were asking for to move on to the next page. So I have to admit, I didn't finish it. At some point, I'm like, I give up.
You didn't finish it?
No.
Maybe I didn't either. I don't know. I just remember, I thought I finished it and was like, that was weird. I don't understand what, because you and I, over our career, have put lots of surveys together, surveying the artist community, wanting to know what's top of mind so we can have discussions like today. Mm-hmm. And so we know how to craft a survey. We know questions to ask to kind of understand what we want to, what knowledge you're trying to gain from the community. And this felt like, I don't understand why they keep asking me about how much I drink beer. I don't understand. How does that improve their platform for artists? Anyway, so
unless we come across as negative on this, we know people from Tidal. They're lovely people.
Yep.
Very focused on helping artists. So I'm sure this survey was an attempt at that. I just gave up before I was of use to them. So sorry, Tidal.
Yeah. Again, this is the Music Career Study Group. If you're just joining us, welcome. This is our first edition. We'll be here every Thursday at 11 a.m. to Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. We're going to try that time. We can move it around if the community decides at different times better. Maybe we can make it Music Career Happy Hour every once in a while, and everyone can bring a beverage. But I'm drinking a Topo Chico right now. But we'd love for you to like and share this video. Help us let people know that Chris and I are back in action doing live streams again, and we're excited to be talking with you, the community of artists that we love. And let's dive into the topic,
Well,
Chris.
real quick before we do have this is the topic today.
Yes.
But I wanted to mention real quick first.
Oh,
we
yes.
have a current offer going on, and I think there's 2 days left because on August 31st it ends. But basically, ReverbNation has this great tool called Promote It, which helps you get your music in front of music fans on major music sites like Pitchfork, NME, MTV. You can see the list here. And it's very user-friendly, very budget-friendly for independent musicians who usually don't have thousands and thousands of dollars to advertise. So this guarantees fast and targeted reach to music fans, and you can get $10 off your next campaign through August 31st. The only caveat I'll make is you have to set a minimum budget of $21, but you know, that's almost half off your weekly ad budget right there if you use the coupon.
A little secret, you can use the coupon well into September, but and I will say this is completely authentic feedback. I have used pretty much every advertising platform that's out there for artists. Chris, I'd say you've probably done the same.
I probably have to.
With social networks as well. This by far is one of the easiest to use, but there's a particular ad type in there called Buzz Builder where through your ReverbNation profile, it can create playable ads that look amazing, and the results that artists get from them, I've never seen anything like it before from this type of advertising platform. It's really great. Highly recommend it. So check it out. Head on over to ReverbNation.com and it's Promote It. It's the, create a campaign, little thing in the drop down, and you can save $10, $10 of free advertising.
I posted a link to it in the comments. And one thing I'll say is I tried this tool for the first time last week. And I would say within 4 or 5 days, for less than $50 of a weekly budget, I'd had 1,800 people listen to my song. And so I recommend people kind of start with that particular campaign objective. There's one where you can just add a playable a song player to the banner ad. So basically, let's say it's served up to someone who's on rollingstone.com. They can listen to your song right there without having to leave the site or click any other buttons. So it's kind of the most, what would you say, the frictionless campaign to start with.
Well, that's why I think they work so well, because that kind of advertising typically, it's kind of disruptive and people have to leave where they're at. I'm like, I don't want to click. I mean, I might be interested slightly, but then I got to go find my way back to this site. And I wasn't even really interested in that site to begin with. So it's like this whole thing, the dilemma of like, do I click play right there? They hear the song. And there's also a setting where they can give you feedback, like rate the song. You don't have to turn that on. But yeah, the results from this is by far better than anything I've seen, and I've tried them all. So check it out. Let's dive
we
in.
promised truth bombs, but why are we discussing music and money in 2024?
Yeah, I mean, it's 2024 has been an interesting year as we've moved into the year. AI was all anyone was talking about. It seems like that's settled down somewhat, not completely, but it was just AI when we started the year. But I think the sentiment, and I certainly was feeling this, and I know lots of artists I talked to were feeling that way. Is it even possible to make money in 2024 anymore? There's royalty changes at Spotify where it seems like they're trying to find ways to not pay artists. 100,000 plus new tracks a day. That's a freaking lot of music. And then, AI's impact on the industry, live performance. I mean, we'll have to do, I'm very curious to hear what people who are watching are experiencing on the live circuit these days. I feel like it's very uneven for some. It feels like it's feast or famine out there right now. That's my interpretation of what I'm seeing. But so there's a lot of questions around that. So
speaking of questions, I was going to, Malia, yes, you definitely can. You could put them in the comments here and we can consider them for next time. That would be great. We'd love to know what topics people want to hear about.
Yeah, we'll have to set up an email for music career study group and figure that out. But
well, to answer this question you have of can musicians make money? Of course, yes, they can. They can even make a living. But that requires understanding what's actually important and effective at driving music revenue, because ultimately, if you want to have a career, it's about earning money from your music. And so kind of that's how we're framing this today. There's 13 areas where we think artists need to have like a change to their perspective, or maybe know in which ways they should put things in, take things with a grain of salt, I guess, and certain news headlines and stuff. So we want to set the record straight here.
Yeah. And we Trust G Easy have been posting my songs here on ReverbNation. Excellent.
Nice.
Excellent. We appreciate you being here. Yeah. So we got these truth bombs, and they're mostly positive, formatted positively,
or at least they all have a positive ending.
It's more like getting hit by a truth pillow. We tried to soften the blow, so you understand that a lot of what artists, this market is so big and complex, and it's getting more complex as we go. And I think artists tend to have a monolithic view of everything. Like, I put music out and money comes back, and in whatever I do, I should, without having a strategy, without understanding that markets and aspects of the industry work very differently from each other. And a lot of times it's just, we got to correct how we view the market so we can understand how to make money.
Yeah. And all of these, or most of them, are basically responses to conversations that Kevin and I have had with probably countless musicians at this point.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I scratch my head. I'm like, wait, people still think this? But shocking amounts of people still fall prey to some of these bad assumptions. So
yeah,
goes.
Let's hit number one. And before you start that, there's been more people joining us. Welcome to the Music Career Study Group. We'll be here every Thursday. Say hi in the comments. We want this to be a conversation where we exchange notes. So if you have thoughts, weigh in. We want to hear it. We'll put it on screen. We'll discuss. We want to learn from you just as much as you can learn from us. So let's hit it. Yeah, there we go.
So I'll read it, and then I know you have a lot to say. Number one, just because you made music doesn't automatically mean it will make you money. Music is not scarce.
Yeah, there's a certain bit of the audience that probably is like, duh. But you would not believe in, when I'm traveling around at conferences, and I know this happens to you, Chris, where someone comes up to me angry because they distributed a track and there's no money coming in. And I will ask them about what they've done, marketing. And I've had an artist multiple artists tell me I shouldn't have to do anything. I already did the work. I made the music. I should get paid. And I'm like, that's not how this works. I'm sorry. I wish it did. I wish it was.
Also, that's not how anything works. So imagine you have an idea for a new soft drink, and now you have made the soft drink, right? It's in a bottle. Magically, you've gotten the funding to make it in a bottle. Now you have to compete with Coke and Pepsi and Mountain Dew. Well, that requires distribution. You have to get into stores. You have to have a plan to have branding and advertising to get people interested. And now on top of all that, Coke probably has 5 shelves worth of bottles, and yours is this little tiny boutique section next to it. You have to get people interested. It's up to you to make someone want to drink it and compare it to Coke. Why would that be any different for a finished album or a finished single?
Yeah. Calhoun Henry, thanks for weighing in. Yeah, he agrees. You got to market your music. So we'll move on to number 2. That one seems pretty obvious, but it has to be stated because it is very prevalent in the artist community and I understand that we do so much work. The creative side of the job is intense. And by the time you get done with your project, you're just so tired. You're like, I just want it to be out there and someone else to take it from here, which is why labels and the whole industry exists. Well,
my last comment on that before we move on is that you and I both say, in some ways, music is both priceless and worthless. It's no one cares until someone cares. If you make them care and they really relate to the song, it changes their life or it changes their mood in some way. That is priceless. However, it's not special just because it exists. It's only special once that person has had an experience. So you have to create those experiences.
Yeah. Calhoun. I'm just going to call him Calhoun now because I feel like after a couple comments, we're buddies, so I can just use the first name. If there's no money behind it, it's going nowhere. That's why that promote it feature we have at ReverbNation. We got that $10 coupon right now. That's why it's such a good deal. You got to put some money behind your music. There's 10 free bucks. And the minimum is $20 or $21. So it's like for $11, you can try out a campaign, and the results for just $20 is kind of mind blowing. Let's move on to number 2.
Yeah.
And Sonic Flood. Thank you. It's good to be back.
All right. I'll read that. This one is one of my biggest peeves. So what's good for the industry is very different from what's good for you, or it may be different from what's good for you, an individual artist. A music career is not one size fits all. Focus on what's best for you. The reason this one bothers me so much is because for many, many years now, I see headlines that say, you know, the health of independent music has never been better. Independent music is growing and growing. And these things are true from the perspective of when you take them in the aggregate. More people are making music than ever before. That's a good thing. So when CEOs of companies are saying these sorts of things, what that means is generally it's good for the music business, or it's good for service providers. It's good for labels and rights holders. Now, we still have the reality that you, the individual artist, basically make the same amount of money if you sell one vinyl record or stream 4,000 or 5,000 songs or times on Spotify. So as much as you hear about, you know, streaming growth and revenues up, it's like, well, okay, well, where should my priorities be in the face of that? So just take things with a grain of salt when you see headlines. Last thing before you say something, Kevin, is Luminate, which is a music industry data company, a month or two ago, did this report that I thought actually did a great job of being optimistic for the whole industry, but also doing a good job of showing ways in which individual artists or sectors of artists were benefiting from increased merch sales and streaming growth and all sorts of things. So I finally felt like there was real data on with cause to be optimistic about both the industry and individuals.
Yeah. And this, you know, with any industry, there tends to be these big splashy headlines that try to be overgeneralize the state of affairs. There's this past couple of weeks, there's been some very positive numbers about the growth in streaming. And I think Spotify had like a really good earnings report recently that, and streaming is up. And I saw something about subscriptions being up this morning. So those things can be like, oh, everything's great. But then you're like, why aren't I making any money? It's like, well, the industry, a lot of the headlines and things tend to be about like the major label system and what those artists are doing. But a lot of times it's very different for the independent artist. So those things could be guides or help inform, but they shouldn't make you feel like whatever's going on with them should impact you. Like when you see negative headlines about, oh, everything's falling apart in the industry, in which they like to do. I think, you know, it seems like very cyclical. Every 6 months, it's like there's doom and gloom, and then, oh, everything's
Positive,
great.
negative.
Yeah, it's like.
And when I made the example
and
the
so,
vinyl,
yeah.
When I made the example about the vinyl record sale, an individual vinyl being as much money to you as 5,000 streams, I say that because a lot of these headlines are about optimism, about streaming growth and its effect on the industry.
Yeah.
But really what might be the best priority for you is press some vinyl and go play more local shows. You know, I'm not saying that is absolutely true, but it might be an instance where you have to, observe where the information's coming from.
And I think it's important at this moment to say that this episode where we're talking about the truth in making money. And I think right there is where a lot of artists confuse making money with getting famous or being known or getting attention. And you can get a lot of attention and make $0. You can, and so I think a lot of times artists kind of are riding the fence of like things that are promotional and good and expand their audience, but don't necessarily tied to making money. And then they kind of just do half-hearted attempts at both, expecting them to both make you lots of money and also get lots of attention. But those are two very different things. So making money sometimes isn't very sexy. It's not cool sometimes. It's like grinding it out, doing the thing where, you know, you play at, like, there's this wine tasting room down the street from my house and it's brand new, and they start having a lot of live music. And there's artists there that are playing for very appreciative clientele that are older, that have money. It's not a sexy gig, but the people listening are very appreciative, and I bet they make more money at that gig than they do playing at a club in downtown Portland.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our next point is basically what you're saying, is that there's not a particular formula. Sometimes you're going to have absolute geniuses that make no money. Sometimes you have very formulaic bands that make tons of money and everything in between. And you kind of have to blaze your own path. And then to back you up on the gigging money thing, I mean, I think of house shows sometimes, like you may be playing to literally 25 people and make $2,000, whereas you could play a club to 200 people or 300 people and make $25. Like, don't ask me how that math works, but you probably know what I'm talking about.
We got to do a whole series about playing live, because I was watching this documentary. I need to finish it. It's a Bon Jovi, and it's talking about like the last tour they did. And I didn't realize he was documenting how hard his vocal situation, acknowledging that he's losing his voice basically and his ability to sing. So it's a documentary about that, but then they reflect about the old days. And he's like, I remember playing in New Jersey at the club and we'd get paid $100. And I'm like, wait a minute, that was the early 80s and they got paid $100. In the 90s, artists got paid $100. In the early 2000s, artists got paid $100. In 2024, artists are still getting paid $100. I'm like, that does not matter.
I don't know if you remember, but a few months ago, I did a video on that. I said, if inflation is applied to all prices going up for everything, how come musicians are making what they made in the 70s?
Yeah, exactly.
It's a fun study.
Yeah.
The next slide we have is you have to make it easy for people to give you money. You need to give your fans options.
Exactly. If usually when I'm talking to an artist and they're like, I'm not making money. After kind of sorting out what they've been doing with their time and energy and effort and where they're investing, that could be money or time, sort of breaking it down. Okay, now let's look at what you're actually doing when it comes to those fan engagements. Okay, you got them to the place, but are you making it easy for them to give you money? Can they leave a tip? Do you have it? Can they even buy anything? I mean,
is there merch to buy?
Is there merch to buy? And the thing is, we won't get into all the details here, but a lot of times people think of merch as just physical goods. You can create endless digital goods that people can buy. And some of that's easy money. I put together a whole box set of our band Small Town Poets, our entire catalog that you could pay $50 for. And we sold that a ton. I'm like, wow, that was free money. All I did was make a zip file of all our things and allow people to spend $50 for the whole catalog. And instead of them, picking off one song here or there for $1 or whatever, they're like, oh yeah, I'll just buy the whole catalog for $50. I'm like, that was free money.
Well, and then there's the other issue of artists being reluctant to sell things out of some kind of shyness, embarrassment, shame. They think it's presumptuous, and I've been guilty of this myself, to assume someone wants to buy your music. But it's good to remember that, like, someone like Billie Eilish, when she puts out a new album, is not shy about emailing that list over and over again, because she knows these are my fans. If they're truly my fans, they'd be offended if I didn't tell them I have a new vinyl record and a tour to buy tickets for. So kind of, you got to get over the squeamishness around just making an offer, basically.
Yeah. Well, and then oftentimes I go to an artist's social media and they're like, it's like, yeah, it's a dead end. I don't have any way to link back to you or pay you money, find music, get goods from you. It's like, of course they're going to move on. There's a million other things to do. They're not going to do extra work. Yeah. Chris, before you move on to the next one, I was going to just say, we've had more people jump in. You are watching the first music career study group, and welcome. Weigh in on the comments. Let us know where you're from. We want this to be a time of us learning from each other. So if you've got questions or comments or experiences related to what we're talking about, feel free to weigh in the comments. You can also just tell us where you're watching from, and we'd love to.
I mean, even something as simple as like what merch item or experience, offer, whatever it is, what's helped you actually sell and make money? Like you mentioned, your digital box set, I know has been good for you. Like what works for people? So just
Yeah.
comment with that.
Yeah. And also liking and sharing this stream while we're live would be great to help us reach other artists. We're launching it today, and yeah,
Logan
so
5.
we're excited to be. Yeah. Oh, got Canada in the house.
Yeah. Okay, number 5 on this list. Any deal an artist signs will have serious financial implications. Don't wait until it's too late to truly understand what they are. Kevin, I know you have decades of things to say about this.
Well, one of this was from, like, so many artists here. Other artists say I made zero money from streaming. In fact, there's another major label artist. Was it Ludacris? No, it wasn't
I don't know.
Ludacris. It was somebody. It was an older rapper that was making a bunch of headlines last week about I've never made a cent from streaming, and it's very easy for that to be a splashy headline, and as an artist, assume, oh, I'll never make any money from streaming. But you got to go, wait. That artist is on a label. They signed a very specific deal. They are not being transparent with that deal. And if they signed a bad deal, which newsflash tends to happen in the music industry, it's happened more than once. An artist signing a bad deal, that they may have signed something that cuts streaming out or greatly diminishes the return on certain platforms. You never know. Those deals can be very basic, but they can also be very detailed, and so yeah.
And I know that you don't mean to suggest that any deal is bad. There's
No.
times when a label or a manager, a booking agent, whatever, can be just the thing to take you to the place you need to go. And there are plenty of great, reputable people out there in the industry. There just are also some unreputable people. And I think your point is just simply know what's in the contract and know the long-term effects, not just what's this going to mean for me in the next 6 months, but what will this mean for me in 20 years?
Yeah, a lot of those artists that say I never made any money from streaming, it's like, well, did you get like $1 million advance? Because that's money, and they gave you that money before you did the work or before you got the results in order to make the money. And so sometimes artists forget, oh yeah, I already got paid. It's just ultimately the point of that slide is that don't see headlines by artists that have signed deals and assume that that's true for you and that you can't make money or you'll never make money from streaming. There are other things in place that they have, and you're not getting the full picture. So don't be discouraged by that. And if you are signing a deal, read it, understand it. Don't just sign it because you want the validation. Know that it's going to impact what happens to your music, and you gotta just know what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah. Hey, Todd, good luck with your Live Nation interview that I know you're going to line up very soon. Logan 5, thanks for liking and sharing the video.
Yeah.
If anyone's enjoying this and wants to share it on their own feeds, that's super helpful to us to bring more people into the conversation. And don't be shy if you have anything to say on this topic.
Yeah.
Weigh in.
Weigh in.
Let's see what's... Oh, this is exactly what you're just saying. Popular artists often have a skewed vantage point on the actual economics of streaming, but they have the loudest platform. So yeah, there are some very vocal complainers about the economics of streaming who aren't totally transparent about maybe what the label took before they saw any royalties. Or sometimes it's about maybe the publishing royalties don't seem like what they should be, but they've got 16 co-writers. So things maybe
that's the other thing.
Yeah, very differently from the independent artist who basically writes, records their own stuff, or owns their own composition and recording, so they get nearly 100% of what they generate.
Yeah, when you see that songwriter say, "I co-wrote a Beyonce song and made $100," I'm like, well, there was 30 writers on that song. It's going to take a lot of streams for that to make up anything.
Let's see. Yes, I remember seeing Snoop Dogg talk about this very thing.
When he's not, being at the Olympics
or selling wine or clothing. He's
just like an American icon now.
I know. Let's see what's next. Number 7, your personal preferences around music consumption might lead you to missed opportunity and get in the way of more revenue.
This is a big one because I think you could generalize and kind of cut some larger music groups by genre and say certain things are true. Like in the EDM world, and people that are creating electronic music and maybe just making music by themselves, they're not necessarily a band or going out performing, or they might be a DJ or whatever. There tends to be a viewpoint of everything is just streams, physical doesn't matter, maybe vinyl every once in a while for some subset of that group, but a lot of times they're just thinking very digital, very online, and that there's no sense in trying to create physical merch for their music. Where then you have other genres, I'd say like maybe folk, country, that have a lot more maybe in-person, live kind of vibe, where selling CDs is still absolutely a must. And some of those folks are actually very suspicious of the streaming world still. But understanding that how you like to consume music, even just your own personal preferences, like I use this platform, so nobody's using those other platforms. That's just not true. For my band, it was interesting to find out that Apple Music and Amazon Music are both kind of fight for number 2 of the streaming consumption of our music. And so it's something that I need to consider, that it's not just Spotify, it's not just Apple Music. It's like we have fans that are different places. For my band, if we don't have CDs available, even though I don't consume CDs anymore, we miss out on money. So just understanding that you should try some things that are outside of what your particular tastes are, just to see what resonates with your fans.
Yeah, I mean, it's another area where basically the lesson is just to test your assumptions, because I know artists who do not listen to CDs, they consume music pretty much just through streaming, and yet they sell a lot of CDs. And their initial take would have been, why would I sell CDs? No one buys CDs. And yet they did it, their fans buy them. The same, or maybe the opposite could be true with vinyl. It's like, oh, I do listen to vinyl, so my fans are going to buy vinyl. And then you press a few hundred and no one buys any. It's like, well, you could have asked your fans beforehand who's interested. So just kind of taking the temperature on things can be a good thing to do in advance as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You can always email your fans or post on social and ask them what they would be interested in. For our fans, there's a big interest in vinyl, but I think vinyl prices have finally come down enough where I'm convinced we'll at least break even. So we're looking into doing that in the near future. But yeah, so some of those things, like I don't have vinyl either, but if our fans want it and there's money to be made, why not offer it in that format?
Yeah. Well, let's see what's the next one here. You won't make a living from releasing one song. Focus on building a catalog. Now, if that one song happens to be, I don't know, I get knocked down and I get up again, like maybe.
Chris, wait. First, we need to have a little intervention here. Why did that song pop to your mind out of all the songs that you could have thought of?
Actually, and I know Chumbawamba has quite a big catalog, so it's a bad example. But
now I'm gonna have Chumbawamba stuck in my head all day. That's really unfortunate. Yeah, I think this is one thing that, Chris and I have had a long career working with independent artists, especially as it relates to distribution and marketing and promotion. And we can say that there's this idea that an artist will write a good song and they just expect it to make their career. And it's like, especially now, but I don't think it makes any difference what era you are releasing music in, because we're only with the current era. But one song, it's like people can only listen to that one song so many times. And the artists that we've seen grow successful careers that make them money, sustainable, like full-time livings, have been artists that have built a catalog. Because, every time like I get in that mode where I just want to binge Radiohead, I'm not listening to one song over and over again. I'd be like, that'd be boring. I go and I might have a song in mind. Oh, I need to hear that. And then I go back and I start listening to their whole catalog. And every time I do that, they're making money. And so artists need to think about, yes, you can be proud about a song that you wrote that's good. You want to make sure you give it its full promotion and even keep revisiting the promotion around it. But you got to keep building that catalog, because over time, that's what's going to make you money, is having a catalog. In fact, I think that's more obvious than ever. So many of the headlines over the last year related to money and music have been so-and-so selling a catalog to this other person. And it's just reinforced to me how important it is whether it's an artist or a label, to build a catalog, because that's where the value really comes long term.
Yeah, and just some of the practical reasons to build a catalog, besides just the amount of music an individual fan can listen to, is you, the artist, are not always great at knowing what your best songs are or what the purpose of some of your songs will be. So, for sync licensing, which is placing songs in TV, film, ads, games, it may be one of your least favorite original songs that you've made that actually fits the best in some scene. And maybe you would have either not released it or kind of forgotten about it, but that's the tune that ends up making you a bunch of money. And the same thing can go for just simply a song catching on in more of like a viral hit sense. So I know we always think our next one's going to be it, but if you make enough of them, something will catch.
Yeah, and when something does catch, you want art music fans to have a depth of catalog to go listen to, because even if you're their favorite artist, after releasing that one song, they can only listen to that one song so many times. That's why I think the album format is still relevant, because even, yes, it's always been that there's been like more priority songs on an album than others, but in context, some songs work better. And then also, it provides people a whole listening experience and not just, a one-off.
Yeah. Let's see what's next here. Your biggest opportunity might not be from simply releasing songs, but monetizing the connection you have with fans. This is sort of similar to what the last point was, but I think is a little bit more about finding more monetizing opportunities. Like, remember that your fans can do stuff with your music. They can create their own videos. They can put it in their wedding videos. They can come do a VIP backstage thing with you. Like, there's more to do than simply just putting out the song.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing is, by the way, thanks, Carlton. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. Yeah. I think that's one thing that you'll notice that I think major label artists are really good at, probably because they have teams to help them build out this infrastructure, because they're not going to let any dollar go to waste. Is that they're really good at monetizing connection with fans typically. And we see this with the independent artist community. A lot of times they're the ones leading the innovation in this area. But understanding that it's not always about music consumption. Again, fans can only listen to your music so much. They've got to listen to other music too. So there's ways where you can still be engaging with them that isn't necessarily about listening, and they could buy merch. I just bought a hoodie from 21 Pilots yesterday. And so even wearing that hoodie, it's like I'm kind of interacting with the band. I'm engaging with them. I'm remembering why I like them. I may not be listening to their music at that moment, but there's lots of ways to monetize the connection with fans that is not just about releasing music. Even just like making some digital goods that I know became very popular a couple years ago. NFTs came and went. But to me, that was really just signaling the idea that you can come up with collectibles, things that online that people would be willing to buy, that they monetize their fandom, but isn't about just here's a new track.
Yeah. And I remember you saying that in your own band's like early trajectory, you realized there was a point where the fans were almost showing up to your shows for each other more so than even you or your music. I mean, I know there's limits to that, but like basically they'd formed their own little community around your music that kind of kept going on its own. So that's not really about monetization so much as just fandom and community, but the two things can be related.
But I think what's important is when you think about, all right, you might not be from simply releasing songs, but monetizing the connections you have with fans, but it can also be monetizing the connections fans have with each other and helping facilitate that. And I think that's where artists are great at. It's always good when you have like a little pet name for the fan community. I know Lady Gaga, I think she calls her community Little Monsters or something like that. There was another one I heard recently. A lot of times it's like a little short phrase around the artist name or something. I'm trying to think. There was one I heard. I don't know. But
Those are the things I always take note that the artist is doing that, and then I
yeah.
forget what the actual term is. But
Yeah. There was one I heard just it was from a rock band. Was it Green Day's fan community? It was a band like that had a little catch up. But then you can start building merch around the fan community that just says I'm a member of this group and we like to talk about this band. It's not even about listening anymore. It's really
yeah,
understanding that music brings people together. And as the artist, you are sort of the party planner. You're the one that brings the party together. You get to bring everybody together around a shared interest. And when
and you
you
can
think about
charge
that,
for entrance to the party.
yeah. And then when you think about, hey, it doesn't always have to be about me. It can be about them and what they like to do together while listening to my music. And then it's like, well, what are the monetization options around that? Could I, if the fan community does have a name for itself, I know I'm going to think of like 20 the second we stop this
Well, it's
live stream.
BTS Army, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, the BTS Army. That's a good example. You start making shirts and swag around that. That's money that's just sitting there that you didn't have to do. That's not about the music. That's about the fans.
This next one is a favorite one to rant about. So number 10, it's the music business. So treat it like you would a job. Now, I'm guilty of this too, but like most musicians I know are like, I should be famous and rich. Oh yeah, how much time did you put into your music promotion and recording and touring this week? I don't know, like an hour and a half. You'd get fired if that was your job.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, your full-time job is probably between 30 and 70 hours a week, right? Like, what the heck are you doing to make this an actual career?
Yeah, if you were this lackadaisical at your job, you'd get fired. So why are you expecting your music to explode when it's a business? You got to treat it like a job. Actually, we joke, but this is one of the biggest tensions I think artists face. If we're honest with ourselves, that creating music is magical, and the experience of when you're writing a song that you're like, this is awesome. You're creating sounds. You're like, this sounds amazing. This is like, I love this. People are going to love this. This is going to be a huge hit. And it's like kind of this magical experience, but then taking that to the grind of like, well, now I have to work it like it's a job. I have to show up. I have to try to make business connections, and I'm going to face a lot of rejection, and that sucks. And then it just feels like the magic's gone because it's a job. And I'm like, yeah, it's a business. That's what it's going to feel like. And when I was doing it full time, I saw that realization hit a lot of people when we'd be touring with other bands. And they're like, this kind of sucks. This is a job. I'm like, what were you expecting it to be?
Well, and also to the person who puts in the effort and is like, this sucks, I don't want this. That's okay. Like, that's totally fine if for your own life and ambitions, like, you don't want to work that hard. I mean, you're going to have to work hard at something, I guess, in life, but it doesn't have to be music. Music can be a hobby or a passion that isn't a job. That's totally fine. And the world needs your music either way. But I think just adjusting your expectations for monetary rewards, you're going to need to work for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Carlton weighed in, like the fan community being called Swifties. But doesn't she have like a specific name for her fans more than calling them Swifties? I thought there was something. I'm sure there's lots of fan communities that have popped up with various names around Taylor Swift.
Let's see. Number 11, in order to maximize revenue, you have to tell people what to do. Oh, this is a good reminder. So along the lines of a lot of musicians being allergic to simply making an offer, we tend to also be really bad at clarifying exactly what we would like someone to do and how. So like, let's say you want to sell a CD or a vinyl record and you send an email, but you write 25 paragraphs about what you ate on tour. And then there's a tiny little link at the bottom of the email. No one's read that far. They're all closed the email. You're not going to sell any CDs. Instead, make that entire email like about the CD that they can buy. Make sure very quickly they know why they should buy it, where to go, what button to click. And actually, sometimes, Kevin, when you and I are thinking about messaging, I always say start with the button. So like, what should the button say? And then kind of write it backwards from the subject line to the button. Now that's talking about email, but you can almost apply that to anything. Like if you're at a show, you're playing a show and you have a merch table, You have to tell people what to do.
Yeah, I think social media, especially the video-centric social media, and more the TikTok era, has really created bad habits with the artist community around this. Oftentimes because uh, you might be making video content that people are liking and responding to, but you're like, but I'm not making any money. It's like, well, you still have to tell them what to do. You have to tell them, hey, it will help me if you go here and buy this thing, or subscribe here, or do this. If you aren't willing to tell them, then don't complain about not making money. Because this
Yeah,
is
and
actually
don't be surprised that they're not psychic.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. It's like uh I've worked with artists who are like, well, they can go to this link, and if they click that link, they'll find this thing, and then they'll end up at the merch store eventually. I'm like, well, you're assuming a whole lot, that they think that like they have pre-knowledge that they're, if they dig around in links, they'll eventually find a merch store, or that
Or that
they'll
they have the
understand
time or
what to
attention
do. Yeah.
span to even act on
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
But this is one of those things. I've worked with an artist who I'd be like, okay, we're launching this single. This is what we need to do. You need to do videos, and you need to make these call outs. And they refused to. They felt shy about it and didn't want to. And I'm like, there, you don't have the power of the leverage of fame behind you. I think that's where one thing where independent artists should not compare themselves to famous artists, because famous artists have the scale there, that they can just haphazardly say something, and thousands of people will respond because they are such diehard fans. They will do the work to figure it out, and sometimes it becomes a game for them. But in the independent artist community, when every dollar matters, you gotta let people know what to do, because they're not, as Tom Jackson, somebody who we'll probably have on the live stream at some point, he always says, those artists, their fans are married to them. You're not even in the dating process yet. You're just trying to get people to pay attention to you.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't leave all this up to just chance. You got to tell them what you want them to do in order to make money.
Carlton's saying, I think we forget it's a business also, because a lot of artists just do music, not realizing what it could be. Might be true.
Yeah, there's this weird thing in the music community where, when it comes to making money, and there's a lot of, you can get in a big argument with a group of artists real fast when talking about, should artists be playing at venues for free? Should artists be, engaging in certain areas that are very talented and giving away their music because it hurts the other artists that are very talented who are trying to make money? I think there's that weird thing of like an artist maybe being very talented, extremely good, and not realizing what they have is marketable and could be making money, but they're just giving it away for free.
Yeah. That reminds me, when I do like local cover song gigs, what most people do is like 3 hours, and they'll take 3 15-minute breaks. And I tend to play like for 4 hours straight with no breaks. And I always worry about what the other music, like, dude, you're giving us a bad whatever. Like, I'm like the guy that crosses the union line or whatever, but I'm just having fun. I don't want to stop playing.
Hey, music is fun. All right, we got
2 more.
7 minutes. 2 more.
One viral video does not equal sustainable revenue. And maybe this is obvious, but it's important to remember. A lot of artists over the last 5 years seem to want to put all their eggs in that. Well, if I just create like a viral TikTok, it's going to do everything for me. And they sometimes were even successful in having a ton of attention, but it evaporates if you don't make a consistent habit of whatever it is that you're doing to market your music or to have a presence. So instead of chasing a trend, or instead of trying to make one amazing thing, like, it's probably better to just think about this as the long haul and just continuously putting yourself in a place to talk to fans.
Yeah, I think the attitudes about this are shifting some, because TikTok came out of the gate being very a platform that actually pushed your videos to non-followers, and that was sort of a newer way the algorithm worked for a video platform. So everyone's like, I just need a viral video and I'll get all this attention. I'll have all these fans. And it's always, I always, ever since video on the internet was a thing, artists have thought that. But I think hopefully we're beyond that now, where viral videos don't go that far anymore and they're gone. It feels like 20 seconds after they go viral, nobody cares anymore. So
and if you do something cool and unique within 3 days, you'll see 20 copycats doing the same thing. So,
and I think really the point is it's more about creating a sustainable thing, not like, all right, I'm going to spend the next month trying to create a viral video. And then what? I mean, if I think the videos that I see doing very well now, if they're not gimmicky or just based on stupid trends that don't really help you anyway and aren't about your music or your career or your artistic expression, I think a lot of them, it's like it's got to be sort of a thing that's a part of what you do. And I even see artists that have created a thing that repeats, but they still haven't monetized it and figured out how to turn those fans into paying customers. I was looking at this group on Instagram yesterday. They do these very cool covers and originals, and they've built a decent following, but I feel like there's no connection to what's happening there to actually converting those fans to how can I learn more? How can I follow you? Where's your music available? And
that goes back to a lot of the points we've already made about being clear, being everywhere, all those things.
Yeah. So anyway,
let's see what our last truth bomb is. Just because it worked for Taylor doesn't mean it will work for you. The opposite can also be true.
That is true.
Yeah. No, this one always makes me think of when Radiohead in like 2007, I think, put In Rainbows out, which was a kind of a surprise album. They didn't charge anything for it. It was like, hey, if you like it, pay us what you think it's worth. You can take it for free. And then, of course, they made like way more money than they ever would have made if they'd stayed on a label and done it the traditional way. And everyone thought, oh, I'll do that, forgetting they're Radiohead. Like, so if a way lesser known artist did the same thing, people might not care at all. People might not feel as inclined to be generous and pay. So that lesson and many other lessons don't necessarily apply or scale in the same way to independent artists. And sometimes they do. So
yeah. Well, yeah, I remember when Beyonce was the first time, like she randomly dropped a track. Nobody knew it was coming. I can't remember if it was a track or a whole album. And after that, I kept talking to artists. I want to just do a big surprise drop like Beyonce. I'm like, it's not a surprise drop if nobody cares or knows. It's like, it's just, like Beyonce doing it's going to create a media stir. Some unknown artist doing it is just going to be any other day on those music platforms.
It didn't occur to me until just now that maybe the motivation for the surprise that artists wanted to do wasn't so much about like getting attention for a surprise as if I drop it overnight as a surprise, I don't have to do any marketing work. But Beyonce's team, even though the public didn't know about it, was doing marketing work or talking to all the DSPs in advance. I guess in those days, maybe it was just iTunes and Amazon. But anyway, someone was doing a whole lot of behind the scenes work. So even as a way of being lazy and alleviating yourself of a bunch of tasks.
No, when
it wasn't the case.
You're correct. And I think, honestly, what Beyonce's team tapped into, because I think they're very smart, very calculated, I would say, especially like looking at, you mentioned Luminate earlier. I think it was a report where they said that like country music is about to overtake hip hop as the number one genre. Don't know what we feel about that, but anyway, I think her doing a country album was like looking at that data, but I think her team, so I look at her team probably very calculating, thinking nobody cares. I've said this many times on previous discussions you and I have had on another podcast about nobody cares what's coming 6 months from now. Like when an artist I like says in April of 2025, we're going to release a new album. I'm like, tell me in April, because I really don't have any capacity or reason to care before then. Yeah. And
I'm not going to go and set an alert.
Yeah. And it's like, I know back in the day, we had this big buildup because there was going to be physical product in stores. And if people didn't show up on week one and buy it from the stores would remove the product and it'd get returned. We're not in that world anymore. So we don't need 6 months of buildup. yes, there can be some fun buildup that can be done. That's fine. But someone like Beyonce does, it's like just make an explosion and then everyone's rushing to go to get the music. And so they're doing a lot of work ahead of time, like you said. So I think the point with this slide was that artists tend to look at what Taylor Swift does, what a Beyonce, what a radio, what all, who's done something interesting recently with releases. I don't.
Well, Drake tried his 100 whatever it was of data secret thing.
So a lot of these artists will do things that it looks like it's off the cuff and unplanned and sort of like spontaneous. And it really isn't. There's lots of planning, but what the public experiences is an engineered, exciting moment. And so as an artist, I think it's just important to remember those things and it may not work because you don't have the scale of fame and all that kind of stuff as well. But there are things that you can learn from those artists that signal like what fan communities are willing to do, what they're willing to buy, what's motivating them. Those are the kind of things that I really pay attention to.
Yeah, well, we're coming up on the hour, but before we conclude this one, I just want to do one more shout out to this offer we've got going on for the next few days, although Kevin said it's going on for longer. So when you're ready to run an ad campaign and get your music in front of music fans on Pitchfork, Rolling Stone, NME, MTV, Paste, and a whole bunch of other really cool websites that are focused specifically on music, check out Promote It by ReverbNation, and you'll get $10 off your campaign if you use Promote It 10. You have to set a minimum budget of $21, I believe, but even that's about almost half off your entire campaign if you run it for a week. I tried it out last week. I had great results. So check it out.
Yeah.
And then we'll be back here next week, right? For another
music study group. So thanks for hanging with us. It'd be great if you share this video, like it. It'll be live on the ReverbNation YouTube channel and Facebook page after the live stream's done. We appreciate you being here, and Chris, it's great to be back in the saddle chatting about all this stuff with you.
Yeah, likewise. And it was fun to see a few familiar faces in the comments. That's cool. I know we're in a new location, but it's good to see friendly faces.
But are we in a new location, Chris? I mean, you and I are in the same location.
That's true. We're in the same location, and I guess
we're still on spot on the internet.
And we're still on Facebook and YouTube. So maybe it's not.
I mean, it's like it's all a simulation. This is what we're programmed to do. So thank you, Malia.
Awesome, Malia. Thanks for tuning in.
Excellent. And we appreciate you all being there. So next week, we will be looking, we'll schedule in advance, and we'll have a fun topic. And the more you come and the more you participate, the better the show will be. And we enjoy hanging out with all of you and chatting about this industry.
And this one, since it was the first one, we kind of prepared to do a lot of talking. I suppose they don't all need to be as presentational as this one. So if y'all want to be more of a Q&A, we still want to keep it centered around a topic, but basically we want to hear from you as much as possible. So
we didn't know if anyone would be here. So anyway,
thanks,
all right, well, we'll catch you next week.
See you next week.
See ya.